This conference will now be recorded.
Hi guys, I am Syed. Welcome you all to this webinar session. Thanks for joining this webinar. Today I am going to give you an overview on enterprise backup solution, which is Veritas Netbackup. So going further on this topic, I'll just give you an understanding the importance of the backups and how we can configure the backups and what is the importance of this backup and recovery solutions using the Veritas Netbackup. Okay, so let's start with today's agenda. We'll be discussing just a brief about what is a Veritas Netbackup and the Netbackup appliance and an OffCenter. Going further ahead in the slides, we will be seeing what are the things which we need to be defined and what are the different components which required to be configure your backup environment at your end at the infrastructure level. So what exactly is the Veritas Net Backup? So Veritas Net Backup is an enterprise solution where you can configure the cross-platform backups and the functionality like you can have the large variety of an operating systems where you can configure the Windows as well as uh, the Unix and Linux operating systems. So you can configure all these backups using this Veritas Net backups. So it is a cross-platform solution where it provides you a great scope to configure all these backup solutions at your infrastructure level. Okay, so when it comes to the Net Backup appliance, uh, it's an appliance which has capacity planning on this, which is basically used as a storage appliance where you're going to dump your data on this appliance, and the appliance has different features. It has different features when it comes to different versions. So basically the Net Backup appliance is having the deduplication features in this, and apart from that it has a redundant storage. When if any disaster happens on the storage level, it has a feature that it can move your all your data to the different storage levels. Okay, so it has an encryption, inbuilt encryption in this, and apart from this it has a deduplication feature where it will just write the data whichever is necessary when you're trying to take the backup. Okay, and it has the compression feature as well when it comes to the Net Backup appliance. Okay, and it has a different available versions on this Net Backup appliance, like you have 5230, 5240, 5330, different various models available in this Net Backup appliance. So based on the requirement and the capacity, you will be procuring this Net Backup appliance. And the last, which is the OffCenter. So basically OffCenter is a web-based software application uh, basically which helps the organization to get the visibility of the data what you're backing it up, and it's a good tool, I can say it as, where you can generate reports. uh, Samir, can you hear me?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so as I said, you in the Op Center basically is a reporting tool. You can use it as it's a best feature which was given by the Veritas Net Backup, where you can generate the reports on the monthly basis, a daily and the weekly basis based on your requirement. It will generate reports uh, the way you look for. Like for example, if you want to generate a monthly report, like what are the successful backups has been triggered on your net backup environment, and what is the ratio of that, where you can submit these reports to the business users or the management team, like how the backups has been triggered and what is the successful rate on that. So apart from that, you can generate the reports for the tapes that you have been consumed on this, and what is the uh, policies you have been configured using the net backup. So all these things you can generate from the OffCenter. Okay, so this is the use of the OffCenter, where basically it's a good tool to generate the reports for the business level. Okay, so let's see further ahead on this. Being an administrator, either it could be a system or the backup admin, uh, basically we need to focus mostly on three important factors whenever you're working as a backup administrator. The first thing is you need to minimize the data loss. Uh, if anything happens, failure or the outrage, uh, we need to make sure that there should be no data loss happen if any disaster happens. Okay, and the next thing is you need to configure the backups with the minimal disruption of the user. Like we need to configure the backups at the non-working hours, right? So it should prevent to have much load on the server level. So we need to configure the backups at that particular point of time. And then third point is we need to make sure that whatever the backups which we are configured, we need to test it on the frequent basis, so that we'll come to know that yes, the backups are running successful and we are able to restore at any point of time. Okay, so if these three things, if we can make it out, then in that case uh, we'll make sure that the data is available at any point of time. Okay, so how we are going to achieve these three tasks? Okay, and what are the things that we need to make sure uh, to get this the success rate of 100% when you're triggering your jobs at your infrastructure level? Okay, so the first thing, we need to make sure that we need to define an SLAs with the business users. So what exactly the SLAs defines with the business users? So basically, when it comes to the backup, we are not the one who will be deciding what could be the SLA or what could be the RPOs and RTOs. So basically, RPOs and RTOs is nothing but the recovery point objective and the recovery time objectives. Okay, so how we will get to know, like what is the RTOs and RPOs? So this will help to achieve with the business users. When we try to communicate with them, they will inform us like this specific application is critical application, and if anything happens or disaster happens on the specific application, we need to bring this up maybe the day minus one or the day plus one, or maybe within 2 hours or 3 hours. Okay, or maybe in half an hour. So based on the criticality of the application, we need to define, we need to sit with the business users, application users, and the system owners. So all this we need to sit together and we need to define the policies, SLAs on that, and then we need to configure the backup policies. It's not like simply we are configuring the policies on the net backup and creating a schedules, adding the clients to the net backup master server. It's not that easy. Okay, before proceeding with this, we need to define the RPOs and RTOs, then we need to configure the backups. Okay, so this is how we need to define an SLAs with the business users. Okay, and the second thing, we need to define the strategy, how we can take the backups, and what if any disaster happens to the backups. So what is the backup plan strategy which we need to define on this? So basically we need to make sure that whenever you are taking the backups, you have the multiple copies that has been configured through the net backup, uh, where you can make sure that you'll be having at least 2 to 3 copies if anything disaster happens. Apart from that, whenever you're trying to define any strategy, first of all, you need to understand your infrastructure and what are the critical applications, and apart from this, you need to know exactly what could be the RPOs and RTOs. So once you come to know all these points, then you can plan according to that in order to make sure that all the backups has been secured and it has been duplicated to either to the tapes, or you can move all your backups to the clouds, depends on your infrastructure. Okay, so these things we need to make sure that in order to plan your backup strategy. Okay, and the third point is we need to make sure that we need to test your backups maybe in the quarterly basis. Say for instance, uh, you can define the calendar year in the 4 quarters, where in the first quarter you can define some of the applications, in the second quarter you will be defining some other applications. So based on that, you'll define and test those backups using either the disk or either the tapes. Why? Because sometimes what happens, the image got corrupted, we are not sure that the backup has been taken successfully. So in order to assure that, we need to make sure that we need to test the backups once it configured on your net backup. Okay, before we confirm to the user that yes, we have configured your backups. Okay, so we need to test the initial backups on the disk as well on the tapes. Once the backup is successful, try to restore it on any of your test environment to make sure that the data has been restored which you have been backed up. Okay, so this makes us show that the backup has been run successfully. Okay, so we need to make a practice of this in order to uh, make sure that either you can check it from the net catalog, where you can, it has a features where you can verify your images whether it has been successfully backed up on the net backup or not. We'll come to know in the coming sessions where how we can verify your images has been successfully loaded on the net backup appliance or not, how we can validate those images using the net backup catalog. Okay, and the last and final point is update as condition changes. So what does it means? So whenever the user comes, or the application owner or the system owner or the business, they comes and says that maybe we need to change the RPOs and RTOs. Okay, so we need to make sure that it's not simply when someone comes to your desk and says that yes, changes our policies, the schedule and everything, as we have been changing our RPOs and RTOs. No, we shouldn't be in a such state that when someone comes and just change the schedules and everything. We need to make sure that we need to get the proper response from the business users, application teams, and we should involve everyone so that if anything happens, if any disaster happens, we should be in a safer side that yes, some X comes to me and says that we need to change, and you have done the changes without knowing, without involving the business users and the application owner or the system owner. Okay, so try to make sure that involve each and every team if you're making any changes on the policy level. Okay, so these are the things that we need to make sure in order to protect your data, uh, to secure yourself being a backup administrator. Okay, so what are the different components which we need in order to use this net backup? So basically we have three different components which we need required to configure or implement your net backup solution, enterprise solution at your environment. So basically we need a master server, the media and the clients. So what exactly the master, the media and the client does? So basically the master server is the one which you're doing all the administration things on the master server. So the master server, either it could be the Windows or it could be the Linux. So it depends on the backup admin. Okay, so some guys are very much familiar with the Windows environment and some is very good at Linux. Okay, so it has the compatibility from the net backup that either you can deploy your master server on the Linux or you can deploy it on the Windows. Okay, so it's up to the backup admin. Okay, whichever is handy for him to work on that master server. either it could be the Linux or it could be the master server. Okay, so basically this master server is an administration console where you will be performing multiple tasks, like you will be configuring your backups. Okay, you're defining the policies, you're configuring your tape libraries, you will be configuring your media servers, you will be creating a disk pools for the tapes. Okay, you will be configuring the SLAs. Okay, you will be defining your storage lifecycle policies on this master server. So I have n number of things that you will be performing on this master server. Okay, so and this master server will be having one major uh, part, which is nothing but a catalog. Okay, so master server is having a catalog which is having an information of all these things which is stored on the NetBackup catalog database. Okay, so if any disaster happens, you can restore those NetBackup catalog on the master server, and you can uh, recover it at that particular point of time. Okay, we'll see in further sessions how we can restore those things and how we can achieve it if any disaster happens. Okay, and the next comes the media server. So basically the media server, as I said, it's a completely storage appliance where you're dumping the data, you're writing the data from the client to the storage device, okay, as an image. Okay, so once you dump that, whenever you're writing multiple images from the client, say for instance if you're writing one of your file server, or maybe you're trying to take the backup for your exchange. Okay, or maybe you're trying to take the backup for your domain controller. So we need to make sure that whenever we are taking any backups, it shouldn't be having any duplicate images on this. Okay, so what media server does is it has an inbuilt feature with deduplication as well as the compression. So whenever you're trying to write the data initially in the first full, maybe you are aware of this backup concept, the first full incremental differential backups. Okay, so whenever you're trying to trigger the first policy, it should always be the first full backup. Okay, so because it has all the metadata information on the first full. Okay, so on the next cycle, once it triggers, it could be either the incremental backup. Okay, what are the major changes it has been done on that specific date. Okay, it will take those incremental changes. Okay, or maybe the differential backup. So all these things you can configure on this. Once it does, the media server, what it does is it compress the data on the media server appliance. Okay, and it will try to utilize the space which has been allocated for that specific client. Okay, so these are the things that you can achieve it from the media server. Okay, and there is one more component on the media server, which is a tape library. Okay, so you can integrate this media server with any of the brands, which could be either the Oracle or it could be the IBM, whatever it may be. You can integrate your tape library with the media server, where you can parallelly run the backups on the appliance as well as on the tapes. Depends on how you will be defining it, based on the criticality of the application or the database or any of the thing. You will be duplicating those images to the tapes. Okay, and finally it comes the client, the one which we need the data to be backed up. So these are the three different components which we need to be make sure that it has been defined on this for the net backup implementation. Okay, so we have a different hierarchy structure when it comes to deploy the net backup implementation. Okay, so it again depends on um, the companies, like maybe the small business units or the enterprise level, maybe like Wipro, TCS. They won't go for the infrastructure like you will be dealing with one master server and the same media server. Okay, because it's an enterprise and it has its huge data, information of the customers residing on the servers and the database and everything. So based on that, you will be designing your infrastructure, you will be knowing your infrastructure, and you are designing that backup design based on that. Okay, so say for example if it is a small business unit, and you don't require a media server because media server cost you a lot. Okay, so as a small business unit, you won't be able to afford to get the media server. So in that case, what you can do is you can deploy a master and media server as a one single entity. Okay, but you need to make sure that you will be having enough space on that physical server or the virtual machine, whatever it may be. Okay, you can deploy your master server on the physical server or it can be on the virtual machine. Okay, the same case with the media server if it is a small business unit. Okay, so in this case, in this example, there is a master and media server which is a one single entity. Okay, it is configured to the tape library and it is added to the clients. Okay, so what happens here, you will defining you're allocating a space on this physical server for to configure the backups on the clients. Why? Because in the SM you won't be having n number of servers, or you will be having a users, you will be having huge applications, so it has less interfaces connected to the master and media server. You can go with this small architecture. Whereas for the high enterprise level, you need to have separated dedicated master server. Okay, and you need to have the media server and you need to have a tape library. Okay, so what happens in the dedicated master and the media server, you have much load on the master and the media. Okay, because it's an enterprise solution and you're working on maybe some TCS or the Wipro. Okay, so you have huge number of data that you need to back up, which couldn't be able to sustain with this small environment. So based on your requirement, you will be suggesting your management that we need this and this, and they will procure you that requires satisfy you with that requirement, and you will be implementing on that. So in that case, make sure that the master server, uh, nowadays everything is on virtual, so we don't think that we're going for the physical servers. Okay, so this is how you can define or create your hierarchy based on the requirements. Okay, so even it has a multi-site tendency where you can have different master servers at different locations. Okay, you can combine those with one single entity as one forest. um, so based on that we can configure all those things. So like that we can design the backup infrastructure based on the requirement. Okay, so as we discussed previously about the op center. Okay, so and we said we have multiple domains. For example, on the site A we're having a master server 1, and the site B we are having master server 2. Okay, so maybe in the site 1 you will be using the virtual machine as a one master server, appliance, tape library, and the clients. Okay, whereas in the side B you will be using master server, media, and the same clients. And what it op center does is it will try to fetch the information from the master server by getting the data sheets from this master server to the op center, where it will populate all the information on one single entity, where you can generate the reports. You'll able to see the jobs which are currently running. It will give you one graphical interface where you will be seeing current jobs running, which are the jobs has been failed, what is the status of that job code. Okay, and you can generate the reports on that. Okay, so based on this you can able to view like it will make you ease whenever you comes to the daily tasks. So it's not like you'll go open your master server. Okay, and you will be looking at your Java console where it shows you which of the backups has been successful or not. And you can give this op center to your operations team who is working 24/7. Okay, where they can sit and monitor it, because operations team can monitor what are the things apart from this backup. They will be monitoring several other things. Okay, so what they can do is they can inform the backup administrator like this specific job has been failed with some other things. So you can know all these things from the op center, which are all current backups are running, what is this that we can achieve it if any disaster happens, or maybe you can try to figure it out why the backup has been failed on this, any status code and everything. Okay, so with this OffCenter you will come to know as a graphical view representation. Okay, and the next comes as the backup storage type. So currently we are having n number of like storage types we can use it as. Like firstly, you can use as a tapes. Nowadays I don't think so that mm, mostly few of the companies are using to take the backup on tapes. Okay, for example, if you take as a banking sector, if maybe in India the RBI says that it has a compliance that you need to keep the data on tapes. Okay, and for a retention of 10 to 15 years. Okay, either you can put it on disk or either you can put it on tapes. Okay, because maybe some RBI regulations says that you need to send those tapes to offsite. Okay, so for that reason you need to maintain the data on tapes as well. Okay, whereas it comes to some private organization, you need not to be on the tapes. Okay, because when you try to restore the data from the tapes, it's very slow when it compares to the disk. So when it comes to the private sector, they look at for the performance. Okay, so in that case it depends on the requirement again. Okay, so we can go either with the tapes, either we can go with the disks, or we have now the latest is at the cloud. So again, whenever you're trying to take the backups on clouds, uh, dumping the data is okay, but whenever you're trying to restore it from the cloud, it will charge you whatever the data you have been restoring on that. So again, it depends on the region to region. You need to make sure that whenever you're trying to take a backup on cloud, make sure that how much it is like costing you whenever you're trying to restore it from the cloud. So you need to make the calculations on that, and based on that you can suggest your management or the team to go for the cloud in order to uh, back up those images on the cloud. Okay, so these are the new types that you can perform using the net backup. Okay, so as I said you in the previous in the initial stage, what are the workloads that we can define using the net backup. So basically the net backup has a number of features that you can achieve it. Because of this, the net backup is one of the best solution in the market. You have different backup solutions apart from this net backup, which is Commvault, Veeam backup solutions. Okay, so and now I'm not sure whether you heard about the Rubric. Okay, uh, and there is one more backup solution that is specific to the Nutanix, which is Haiku. Okay, so there are so many backup solutions. Based on the requirement it will go as is, but net backup has best feature. Whatever data you want to dump, take the backup, you can achieve with this net backup. Okay, so now the latest version currently is 8.1.2, where you can take the backups for the Nutanix as well. I'm not sure about whether you are aware of Nutanix. uh, um, Mostly now the Nutanix is the current hyper converse solution, where it competes with all the rest of the vendors. I can say it as a VMware or System Center or anyone, the Microsoft. Okay, so the Dell and everything. So it's one of the best solutions when it comes to the hyperconverged infrastructure, the Nutanix. Okay, so the net backup supports Nutanix as well. Okay, so it has a different operating systems where you can configure as a Windows, Linux, whatever it may be. And the virtual systems, as I said, you can configure the backups for the VMware as well as the Microsoft. And now it supports an Nutanix environment as well. And when it comes to the database and applications, you can configure the Exchange, Microsoft SQL servers, which is always on databases. The one feature which is like on 8.0, you won't be able to take always on databases, as we have a feature called SQL integration policy, which is SIP, where you can able to configure the policies for the always on databases, but the support says that we are not supporting if any issues comes on that if you configure in such a way. But when it comes to 8.1.2 version, uh, it's now it easy to configure the always on databases as one single entity. So that's a good feature which was available on 8.1.2. Okay, so apart from this, there is a third party integration with the storage, which is maybe you will be integrated with the EMC, HP, Hitachi, whatever it may be. You can configure as a third party storage on the net backup appliance, and you can take the backup on using the third party appliance, okay, apart from your net backup appliance. Why? Because maybe say for instance if your appliance is running out of storage, maybe some disaster happened, you're not able to get those storage back, and maybe it's taking time to resolve the issue. So you can configure the third party appliance and you can dump those backups using that backup with that third party integration. Okay, and the last which is a cloud platform. As I said, you can use the net backup is integrated with Microsoft Azure, AWS. Okay, and now the Google platform. So you have these features when you want to configure your backups on the clouds. Okay, so we have different types of appliance, uh, where we have the latest is 5240 and 5330. Apart from this we have n number of appliance, depends on the requirement again. So basically it comes up with a 2U box, where it has an inbuilt storage of 4 terabyte. Okay, if you want to expand your storage, you can expand this up to 196 terabyte. Okay, which comes up with four boxes. Okay, so we can expand max up to 196 terabyte for this particular appliance 5240. So again it based on the requirement of the organization or the infrastructure, you will be procuring. You need to make sure that what is the current capacity of your infrastructure. Say for instance, you will be having an exchange servers, maybe uh, two cache servers and two mailbox. Okay, so you need to calculate those things and how many virtual machines you have, and how many like how many snapshot you want to take the backups on the virtual machines, what is the actual data that you need to backup, maybe at the file level. Okay, so all these things you need to calculate it. Maybe you have the Oracle application, maybe you will be having a Spark T5 nodes and T4. So based on that you need to each and everything that which you're trying to write the data on the appliance. Okay, you will be having a file servers, you will be having a domain controllers. So all these things you need to calculate initially, and then you need to give one exact figure. Based on that, you will be procuring this appliance, and maybe your service team, like the account manager, will help you out on this. Like you'll be giving your data, like this is the data, approximately some terabyte, and he will help you out on the calculation part, like what is the compression rate on this and what is the deduplication it will achieve it if we procure this much of storage. Okay, all these things you can get the information from the accounts manager, from the vendor. So once you get this, you can procure either based on the requirements. This is one more appliance which is 5330. This appliance you can extend up to 687 terabyte storage. Okay, which is 229 per shell. So based on that we can expand the clusters and everything. Okay, uh, uh, Vinod, let me complete this session. I'll answer you once we'll start with the Q&A on this. Definitely I will explain you what exactly the appliance means on disk. Okay, thank you so much. So this is an OffCenter console. Again, you can deploy this OffCenter as uh, either you can deploy it on a separate virtual machine, or you can deploy it on the master server itself. It won't be having any issue if you deploy it on the master server, but it's good to be a best practice. You can deploy it on a separate virtual machine, because what it does is, when you're fetching the information from the master server, it has some load on that, because it has a specific time that it will try to fetch the information from the master server to the op center. If you have n number of master servers, in that case it's good to be deployed on the different virtual machine. Okay, so once you deploy, this is how it looks like, the op center page, where you will be login with your username and password. And this is the screen where it shows you what are all the master servers has been connected over here. Okay, and it will show you the graphical representation of what is the job summary state, how many jobs has been run successfully, which jobs has been partially successful, and which jobs got failed, what is the status code. Okay, so all these things you will come to know what is the policy name, and with what status code it has been failed. So you'll get to know with this particular screen. So as I said you, this is just on the daily task, if you can see. So you'll just go there and you will see that yes, these jobs has been failed, or what are the jobs of that particular policies. You'll come to know here the policy name, and you can know what is the status code of that particular job. Okay, so it will give you the overview, like how many jobs has been failed out of how many. Okay, so this is a good tool, I can say it as, where you can just have a look, and then you can proceed for troubleshooting on then further. Okay, so as you can see here, separate installation from NetBackup, available without any additional license. So you need not to get any additional license on this in order to get this feature. Okay, you can run it on multiple platforms. As I said, it could be the Windows or it could be the Linux. Okay, depends on the administrator uh, options. Okay, so as I said, you it is fetching the information from the master server. So on the settings, it has option called configuration and the net backup. Okay, so here you will be adding your master servers. Okay, if you have Linux master server, you will be adding a Linux master server. If you have Windows, you will be adding a Windows. Okay, once you add those master servers to your op center, you will enable data collection. Okay, so what it does, it collects all the information. Okay, once it collects, it will show you in this way. Okay, as you have been configured the master server over here, added your master server to the op center, then it will get all the information from the master. Then how it shows you this graphical views. Until and unless you add those things, you won't be able to get all this information. So this is how we will be adding your master servers. If you have n number of master server, maybe two or three or four. Okay, so maybe you will be having on different regions, maybe one in Hyderabad, one in Bangalore, or one in Chennai or somewhere. Okay, so you can add those all those master servers to this op center to fetch the information, and you can generate the reports on the region basis as well. Okay, so you'll be having two different features on this op center and op center analytics. Okay, so the one which you just saw is op center, which is having an feature like operation reporting, reporting data for last 60 days, and you don't need any additional license to uh, procure this. Okay, so whereas in op center analytics, you will be having a business level reporting, where you can customize the things and you can run SQL queries as well, uh, based on your requirement. Based on the business requirement, you can query with SQL reports. Okay, and you can generate those reports using the SQL. Okay, and there is no time limit on the reporting data, like maybe you can keep the data for 365 days. It's not like specific for 60 days. Okay, so for that you need to have licensed option. Okay, in order to get those features. So this is the one where you can achieve the features on this. And just let me know if you have any Q&As with this session on this, or you can unmute yourself if you have any questions to ask me.
Hello, Syed.
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Vinod here. Appliance means it is a disk or any other type like this only?
Hi Vinod. Basically, appliance is completely a disk, pure
Okay.
pure disk. This is it has a completely different features when it comes to the net backup appliance. Basically, it has a hardening. It has its own operating system. Okay, and it
Okay.
has storage foundation on that, and it has a
Means it is a
deduplication features.
primary storage pool like this only.
Yeah, it's a primary storage pool. You can
Oh yes.
configure the secondary storage pool at the DR side, where you
Okay.
can have a feature called auto image replication, which is AIR, which was given by the Veritas. You can replicate the data from DC to DR.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Thank you.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
Sayed. Hi, Sayed.
Hi.
I just want to ask if you can install Veritas Netbackup on Windows and storage local without any appliance.
May I know your good name?
Can we install
No,
Netbackup
no. May I know who is
without
talking?
Samer? Samer. Hello.
Samir. Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, tell me, Samir.
Uh, yes. Are you hear my question?
Yeah, can you just repeat once again?
Can we install NetBackup without
Mm-hmm.
appliance as we prepare a server and SAN storage and install on Windows 2019?
Yes, you can do it without an appliance. That's what I said you in the slides. You can create a one virtual machine as a master server. Okay, in that you will allocate a space from the SAN storage, any of the third-party storage to that virtual machine. And once you are adding that onto the master server, you will define as a local disk. Either you can define it as a local disk or advanced disk. You can configure that. But the features that you are availing by using the NetBackup appliance, you won't be able to get those features like the COM part and the encryption part. You won't be able to get those features when you're deploying it on the same virtual machine. Otherwise, you will
Okay,
get the same thing. Yeah, the performance will be different when it comes to the physical and the appliance. That's it.
okay, okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Also, I wanted to ask, uh, we can use the master and the media servers without installing Operation Center.
Yes, it depends. See, basically, OffCenter is just for the reporting purpose, where you can generate reports for the business user, for the management purpose. So it's not mandatory that you need to have the OffCenter. You can just deploy your master and the media server. You can add the clients and you can run the jobs. In order to generate the reports, you will be just deploying an OffCenter. It has an inbuilt you need not to get any license for that. If you're going for OffCenter analytics, then you need to procure the license. If not, you can just deploy it on any of the Windows machine. That's it.
Okay, okay. But for master and media servers, we can install the tools in the same server.
If you're not procuring a media server appliance, I mean appliance, if you're not procuring any appliance, if you're going to get the third party storage and you're deploying it on one virtual machine, yes, in that case, you can do that.
Okay, but if we go for appliance, so we have to go appliance for master and appliance for media server.
If you're opting for an appliance, your master server will be a virtual machine. Okay, and the media server is an appliance from the Veritas Netbackup. Okay, so you need to install the NetBackup master server on your virtual machine, and then you will integrate that appliance to this master server. That's it.
You mean by master? You mean by media server storage?
Yeah, media
Yes.
server
You
storage.
mean by media storage?
See, basically what
As I
happens is
use
when yeah, yeah, sorry.
I already use Symantec Netbackup, Symantec Backup Exec. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
and uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and already I install the application, the media server in the same server, and attach local storage directly to the server
Okay.
without installing master or case server.
See, basically, backup exits is a it's not an enterprise solution. First of all, backup exit is for the medium level where you don't have much servers to be configured on that. Maybe 50 or below 100, you can go with the backup exit. Okay, and it is a good tool with the semantic semantic enterprise. But this net backup solution is completely for the enterprise solution, where it is entirely different when it comes to the backup exit. Okay, so when you say you're deployed a backup exit on a virtual machine and you have got external storage, and you are uh, trying to take the backup using that third party storage, and you have a separate cache server. But when it comes to the Veritas Net backup, you need not to be having a separate cache server on that. Okay, and you need not to be having uh, a different media server. If you don't need that media server, you can deploy it as a one single entity as a master and the media. Okay, but if you're looking for the performance, and if you're looking for the dedupe, and if you're looking for the compression, if you're looking for the encryption part, you need to have this appliance. Again, it depends on the requirement for the company.
Okay, okay, okay. Good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. uh, Ravi has put on the question like how to calculate load on the op center installed. Like I have 14 master servers, and how would I ensure that op center server run fine, and how much space we should have and CPU RAM speed. Okay, so as you said, you have 14 master servers. Okay, for example, I'm not sure like is it on the different regions, or it would be on the same region, on the same cluster or something. See, basically what happens is if you have different regions, say for instance in Hyderabad is one of your region, Bangalore and second Bangalore and Chennai. Okay, so you have more workloads on running on those master servers. What you can do is you can deploy the master server on the same region itself. You can do in that way. Okay, and if you don't have much load on the master server, say for instance Hyderabad and Bangalore, you can club those two regions into one single entity for the op center. Okay, and based on that workloads, you can define that the CPU should be minimum of like 4 core is enough for that, and the RAM is minimum you need to have 16 GB of RAM. Okay, uh, it would be sufficient for you to run those workloads for the master servers. But again, as I said, if you have 14 master servers, either it could be on the same region. Okay, I mean to say, like in Bangalore itself you have sub branches. Okay, or Hyderabad itself you're having a sub office like in Amirpet, or maybe a Somajigoda or somewhere else. Okay, so in that case you can configure as one single entity for the op center. Okay, as you will be knowing that what could be the workload on that. If it is on different region, it would be suggested that go with the region as one specific entity. Again, it depends on the workload. I will come to say that, like say for instance if you have Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Chennai. Okay, the Delhi and the Bangalore region is having less workloads. Maybe you will be having for example, uh, 20 to 40 virtual machines running on that. Maybe the backups are less on that. So in that case, you can create one entity for the op center, and you can configure for the Delhi and Bangalore region. Whereas, for example, if you have so much workload altogether for the four regions, in that case, it's suggested to be create an op center on the single region itself. Okay, because if you club all these four regions as a one single entity, the workload will be more. If you have enough resources to be applied on this op center, then in that case you can go ahead with that. If not, it's suggested to be split on that particular region itself. Hope I answer your question. um, as I said, you Ravi, like again, it's all depends on the workloads, what you're defining it. And if you have enough resources to allocate that op center with more resources on that, for example, if you have CPUs are available and the RAM speed is available for you on that, then in that case you can define it. It's not an issue. But the thing is, first you need to calculate how much workload is on each and individual region on that particular master server. Okay, based on that, you can calculate it, and then you can configure the op center for as a one single entity. Why? Because say for example, on Delhi region you will be having 100 virtual machines, 100 policies are running. Okay, and maybe for the Bangalore region you are just running 10 policies, and for Hyderabad region you will be running 50 policies. Okay, and the Delhi region is highly loaded, and when it tries to fetch the information, data seeding from the master server to the op center, okay, it will take some load on that particular master server as well as on the op center. So we need to consider all these things, and then we need to calculate based on that. So first of all, we need to know that what is the load on the master server. Okay, once we come to know all these things, then we can proceed with, either we can go with one single entity, or we need to go as per the region, uh, based on the workloads. And maybe the local account manager, maybe he can help out what are the data, because I'm not sure what data it has. So maybe your local account manager can help you out on the data he calculated. Maybe you provide it to them, and based on that they can suggest you, either you can go with the single entity, or you can go with the region wise. Does master server workload impact to the op center directly, or it is because of op center database? As you're creating a separate entity for the op center as a one different virtual machine, mostly it won't be having much load on that uh, to impact your op center. Okay, basically what it does is, op center, it will try to just get the information of your current master server, like what are your tape libraries configured on that, what are the appliances that has been configured on your master server, what are the policies you have configured. So it will fetch all the information. It's not like it will leave only which is not required. It will get all the information which is uh, needed for this op center. So we can't say that there is no workload on that. But if you're going with single entity, definitely it won't be having much load on that. Okay, you're welcome, Ravi. Any more questions?
Hi, Syed sir. So there is no questions, I think so.
Okay, great.